Happy and energetic day, dear children. I welcome you all to the English Corner. Children, we will have a small recap of chapter 6. I want something in a cage. Then we will go into the question and answers. Okay, complete the question and answers and post it in classroom. So, Mr. Purcell owns a pet shop. There is a constant noise of screeching and twittering in the shop, but Mr. Purcell is happily unaware of it because he is used to that sound. So, one cold morning, a strange customer calls. This is what is outline of first part 1. Right, Mr. Purcell didn't believe in ghosts, so nevertheless, the man who bought 2 doves and a strange act immediately thereafter left him with a distinct sense of uncanny, right, unusual, as though behind his departed customer there had lingered the musty smell of an abandoned haunted house, like a ghost house. Mr. Purcell was a small fussy man. His appearance is given here: rosy cheeks and a tight melon stomach, in the sense his stomach will be a little bit bigger. Large glasses magnified his eyes so as to give him the appearance of a wise and genial owl. He owned a pet shop. He sold cats, dogs, and monkeys. He dealt with fish foods, bird seeds, and medicine also. Right? He considered himself something a professional man. It a constant stir of movement pervaded his shop. Whispered twitters, sly rustlings, squeals, cheeps. All these are sounds of birds, right? And sudden squeaks. Small feet scampered in frantic circles. So canary is a small bright yellow bird. Frightened, bewildered, blindly seeking. Across the shelves pulsed his endless flicker of life, but the customers who came in said, "Aren't they cute? Look at that little cage. They are sweet." And Mr. Purcell himself would smile and briskly rub his hands and emphatically shake his head. Each morning, when the routine of opening his shop was completed, it was a proprietor's custom to perch on a high stool behind the counter, unfold his morning paper, and digest the day's news. As he read, he would smirk, frown, reflectively purse his lips, unknowingly lift his eyebrows, nod in grave agreement. So all these are the expressions he will make when he is reading a newspaper. He read everything, even advice to the lowdown and the detailed columns of advertisement. It was a rough day. A strong wind blew against the high plate glass windows. Smoke filmed the wintry city, and the air was grey with a thick frost. Having completed his usual task, Mr. Purcell again mounted the high stool and unfolded his morning paper. He adjusted his glasses and glanced at the day's headlines. Chirping and squeaking and mewing vibrated all around him, yet Mr. Purcell had no more than he would have heard the monotonous ticking of a familiar clock. There was a bell over the door that jingled whenever customer entered. This morning, however, for the first time Mr. Purcell would recall, it failed to ring. Simply he glanced up and there was a stranger standing just inside the door, as if he had materialized out of a thin air. The storekeeper slid off his stool. From the first instant, he knew instinctively, unreasonably, that the man had hate him. But out of the habit, he rubbed his hands briskly together, smiled, and nodded. "Good morning," he beamed. "What can I do for you?" So that is the end of part 1 and comprehension check. Also, we saw. I hope you could have finished your classwork in this, right? Next is the customer wants something that has wings, right? Wing that has wings in the sense what? Birds. He spent his 10 years of earning on a pair of bird. What does he does after buying the bird is the strangest act Mr. Purcell has ever seen. That is the end of the story. The man's shiny shoes squeaked forward. His suit, his suit was cheap, ill-fitting, but obviously new. He had a shuttling glance and close-cropped hair. Ignoring Purcell for the moment, he rolled his gaze around the shadowy shop. "A nasty morning," volunteered the shopkeeper. The clasped both hands across a melon-like stomach and smiled importantly. "I see by the paper we are in for a cold spell. Now, what is it you wanted?" The man stared closely at Mr. Purcell. As though just now aware of his presence, he said, "I want something in a cage. I want something in a cage." He doesn't know to point out very clearly what he wanted. "Something in a cage?" Mr. Purcell was a bit confused. "You mean some sort of pet?" "I mean what I said." What he said. "I want something in a cage." That is what is the name of the lesson. Right? Snapped the man. "Something in a cage. I want something in a cage." He repeatedly asking, "I want something in a cage. Something that is small." "I see," hastened the storekeeper, not at all certain that he did. His eyes narrowed gravely and he pursed his lips. "Now let me think. What will be that? Something very small that is in the cage. Maybe a rat? A white rat, perhaps. I have some very nice white rats in my shop." "No, no, no," said the man. "Not rats. Something with wings, something that flies." "A bird?" exclaimed Mr. Purcell. "A bird. A bird's all right." The customer pointed suddenly to a suspended cage which contained two snowy birds. Can you able to see that? Two snowy birds. "Doves? How much for those?" "$5.50 came the prompt answer. "And a very reasonable price. They are a fine pair, superb pair of doves." $5.50? The man was obviously crestfallen. He hesitantly produced a $5 bill. "I would like to have these birds, but this is all I have got. Just $5. Right, $5.50, but only 5 is available." So Mr. Purcell is having a mental calculation, quick calculation of $5.50 and $5. How much will be the less quantity? Which told him that a 50-cent reduction, he would still reap a tidy profit. Even if he reduce, he'll get a margin profit. Okay, good. Okay, he smiled magnanimously. "My dear man, if you want them that badly, you can certainly have them for $5. Okay, I'm agreeing to give you for $5. I'll take them." He laid his $5 on the counter. Right? Now Mr. Purcell tottered on tiptoe, unhooked. Tiptoe means keeping his leg on the tip. Whenever we didn't have a proper height, then we will tiptoe and unhook the cage and hand it to the customer. The man cocked his head to one side, listening to the constant chittering, the rushing, the scurry of the shop, that noise. He blurted, "Doesn't it get you?" "Noise? What noise?" Mr. Purcell looked surprised. He could hear nothing unusual. The customer glad. I mean, all this caged stuff drives you crazy, doesn't it? Drives you crazy, doesn't it? Mr. Purcell drew back. Either the man was insane or drunk. Maybe he will become a half semi-crack. That is why he is using all these words. He said hastily, yes, yes, certainly, I guess so. Listen, the staring eyes came closer. How long do you think it took me to make the $5? How long? The merchant wanted to order him out of the shop. But oddly enough, he couldn't because he is a shopkeeper. He heard himself beautifully asking, Why? Why you are asking me like that? Okay, tell me how long did it take you? The other one laughed. 10 years at hard labor. See, 10 years is not a small period of time. It's a very long time, right? 10 years at hard labor. 10 years to earn $5? 50 cents a year. All these are measurements of money, right? It was best Purcell decided to humor them. My 10 years. That's certainly a long time. Right? Now Wordwall is here. Snowy is white. Crestfallen is disappointed. Magnanimously is generously. He smiled a broad smile. Tottered is moved unsteadily. Now they give you $5, laughed the man, and a cheap suit dress and a small cheap dress. That too doesn't suit him. And tell you not to get caught again. Mr. Purcell mopped his sweating brow. Wiped his sweating brow. Now, about the care and feeding of your doves. How? You bought the doves, okay, good. How will you feed the doves? So I would advise, he's trying to advise. Bah! The man swung around, so he went and stalked abruptly from the store. Purcell sighed, take a deep breath. Sighed with sudden relief. He waddled to the window and stared out. Just outside, his peculiar customer had halted. Halted in the sense, he stopped. Purcell was seeing what the customer was doing. He was holding the cage shoulder high, staring at his purchase. In opening the cage, he reached inside and drew one of the doves. Take one of the doves. He tossed it into the air. He drew out the second and tossed it after the first. So, what happened to the tossed birds? They rose like wind-blown balls, fluff, and were lost in the smoky grey of the wintry cities. So it was a great relief for that man. He had flown them away. For an instant, the liberators, silent and lifted gaze, watched after them. Then he dropped the cage. He threw the cage. He showered both hands deep in his trouser pocket, hunched down his head, and shuffled away. The merchant's brow was puckered with perplexity. So desperately had the man desired the doves that he had let him have them at a reduced price, and immediately he had turned them loose. Now why? Mr. Purcell muttered. Did he do that? He felt vaguely insulted. Who felt? Mr. Purcell felt very insulted because of the action of the customer. Right? So Time is up, dear. Thank